Look Outreach is underwritten by the generous support of Munter Enterprises. Family owned and operated since 1972, integrity is important, as our family name is on every project. Our word is our bond. Munter Enterprises. Just build it.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, as you know, we've been devoting a lot of our time and energy into delving into the topic of the proposed change in the city form of government in Saratoga. And it's getting complicated, and so we just keep asking people to come in to just help us try to get our arms wrapped around it. And joining me today is Michele Madigan, who is the Commissioner of Finance, City of Saratoga. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you for having me again here today, Jesse.
You're welcome. I said wrap your arms around it. I don't know about you. I can't get my arms wrapped around this thing at all.
I know.
I'm trying to figure it out. I kind of get frustrated with it in a way. And in talking to you and asking you to come back on again, I did sense a little bit of that frustration in you as well. Almost like, where are we here and why the intensity? Is this really just an academic decision? You know what I'm talking about. Talk to me.
I do, and you did sense a little bit of frustration because I give this a lot of thought. It's a big choice. It's a big issue on referendum on November 7th, and I do think it is an academic discussion. We have a few forms of government out there. We happen to operate under the commission form of government. There are strong mayors. There are city manager form of governments. I can't sit here and say which one is better than the other one, and it may just be that the commission form of government works well for Saratoga Springs and only Saratoga Springs. But one thing I can say is it is what we operate under today, and it does seem to work very well for us today. That doesn't mean it doesn't come with its own issues and its own growing pains.
Well, you know what? I did a little research on this. Saratoga has operated under the commission form of government since like 1915. There is a sense if you dumb it down, there's a sense if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I know it's a lot more complicated than that. A lot of pros and cons about these things. But to your point, you're in the trenches every day, right? And arguably, the most important position in the city, right? You think about being Commissioner of Finance, everything touches your department, your desk, your deputy at one point or another, correct?
The finances are important. We put out the budget, we manage the appropriations, we propose the tax rate for the taxpayers. And I've been able to do that during my tenure by keeping taxes flat, building up healthy fund balances and reserves, making sure that the city is still safe and clean, ensuring that it looks beautiful when we operate on the grand stage that we operate on, when our visitors and tourists come here to visit us.
You know what, Michele? One thing, regardless of how you vote in November on this, there's a period of transition. And one thing that's been on my mind that nobody's really addressed yet, and I'd love to get your opinion on it. The city is a very successful city. It's got a lot of momentum. There are projects on the table right now with a lot of momentum behind them or a lot of desire to see them succeed. There's a period of transition if there's a change in the form of government. What happens to those projects?
Well, that's one of my concerns, Jesse, to be perfectly honest with you. There is momentum. This is the form of government we operate under right now. I did the budget message 2 weeks ago, and I clearly stated to the council that finances are always tenuous, that we need to be looking to the future, looking at the issue of Airbnb and HomeAway and how that impacts some of the revenue that we take in from an occupancy tax point of view, looking at big ways to reduce expenses such as healthcare. Healthcare is a national debate, and it certainly affects us at the local level. And also looking at what's going on in our city to make it easier for tourists to get here, some kind of parking management solution type thing. These are big projects that we need to work on. I don't know what happens if we enter into a transition stage. Do we just go into transmission mode for a couple of years? Do we lose these opportunity costs for these large projects that we're all working on because now we're involved in a transition? I'm very concerned about what happens over the next couple of years. Does everything come to a standstill until a city manager comes on board into 2020, 2021, and then we get back up and running with some of these really good projects? That's my concern. As I say, this is how we operate today. What's being requested is a large infrastructure change. We're not talking about going strong mayor to city manager or city manager to strong mayor, where some of that infrastructure already exists. They're kind of similar forms of government, and you watch communities even around us kind of flip back and forth between them. We have, since 1915, been operating as a commission form of government through a couple of world wars, a lot of depressions, recession, one in 2008, and we're doing pretty well. We're doing very well. I'm concerned about some missed opportunity costs as we transition, and I think the taxpayer should be too.
Let me just chase that for a second, Michelle. One of the points that the people who advocate the change are making is that it's an inefficient way for the government to operate because there's not any collaboration. I have witnessed collaboration, pro and con, with the council, but there always seems to be an ability to work together. Am I wrong about that?
I don't think you're wrong at all. It's democracy, it's politics in action. But if you look at the majority of our votes, this council gets along very well, and our votes are 5-0 to move forward and progress on initiatives that are good for the city and for the taxpayers. It takes 3 people to move something forward.
Right, sure.
And we always tend to have 3 people ready to move something forward. I consider myself a leader in city government. I've done a lot of great projects on behalf of the city of Saratoga Springs, including the 2.5 megawatt solar array, which I could not have done without the involvement of my council members, and in particular, the Commissioner of Public Works.
Yes, right, sure.
So we had to work pretty hand in hand together. And there's a number of issues like that. Sure, again, back to that academic issue. Is one form of government better than another? Maybe a city manager is a fabulous form of government, or even a strong mayor. But what we operate under today is commissioner form of government, commission form of government. And I just don't see what's wrong with it, to the extent that we would want to make such a drastic change at an expense that is yet to be defined.
Wow. Okay, Michelle, well said. You can tell that you know what? You can tell that you live it every day.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I live it every day.
Well, thank you for coming in, and you're welcome back anytime. Come on back, bring John back, whatever.
Right.
And let's, as we get closer to Election Day, let's just make certain that the conversation is really, it's flushed out, that we're really talking about this, because it's a big decision.
I hope to get to talk to you more about it.
Yeah, good. Thanks,
in
Michelle.
a good forum.
Thanks for taking the time to come in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.